Okay, I thought I'd shoot what happened here because it's rather important. I tried to move these two corps here to try to mess up Jackson, at least force him to pay movement points when he leaves these on control. But the Union got two bad die rolls, and in fact these two units didn't move at all, which is not good for Pope. So I'm going to have this corps attempt to move there, try to block Jackson. Let's roll the die and see what he gets. Thank goodness he gets a 6, which becomes a 5. And he goes 1, 2, 3, 4 to enter the zone of control. So he's at least thrown a zone of control and blocked Jackson. And between the two of us, that's a dummy unit. Of course, the Confederates won't know that. Alright. We may have to use the cavalry this time, if anything, if only for a blocking unit. That pass is kind of nice. That might be Thoroughfare Gap. It isn't marked on the map. I think the cavalry will at least go there to block the gap. Maybe this side. Yeah, the other side of the gap. This way, if Jackson does move, he's going to have to go around. Alright, so we've got Pope here with 2 units. We know one's a dummy, the other is the first corps. Again, remember that little rule of thumb. Have your dummy move first so it pays all the expensive stacking and unstacking costs. So he'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, also blocking the pass. The Confederates will have to do a lot of reconnoitering if they want to get through those dummy units. Now we know that that's a real corps. And, gee, we have at least one real corps there. Pope's got to get his army back in command, so I'm going to have that corps do a bold move and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be bold, all right. No, I don't think I'd better do it. I'll leave that corps there. All right, Pope's got this other corps. It is a real one, and our intended movement will be here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have to roll the die because he's out of command. Roll the die. He only gets a 3, which means he only moves 2 movement points. And we have to follow the route we designated, which is 1, 2. Not too good. And we've got good old Burnside here has been just slowly marching from Fredericksburg. We'll have him move directly north as far as he can go. He rolls a 2, which is only 1 movement point. So Burnside just crawls along. Not good. Pope then will move to put these units in command, and that will be Pope's turn. Now again, we've got to be thinking about the 8th Corps here up at Harper's Ferry. I'm not really clear what I should do with him. One bad thing to do is move it too late and then get trapped by Lee's whole forces. So I think we're going to evacuate Harper's Ferry and move east. Let's move as far as we can. Roll the die, we get a 4, really is a 3, and we pay 1 to the stream, so 1, 2, 3. At least that corps is on the move. Now we've got 2 perfectly good corps up at Alexandria here under Porter, and they're going to start moving as fast as they can forward to join Pope. Now remember, the first one pays the unstacking cost, so he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 following the railroad. This unit is no longer stacked, so he can go 1, 2, 3, 4. He could stack with that unit again, but then they'd be penalizing themselves next turn. So, and Porter will join. So that's the Union move. No combats, of course. The Union doesn't want to tangle with Longstreet's corps or Jackson. So Pope is feeling the pressure of Jackson, but he's still not in a real bad position. So we'll go to the next turn, which will be August 21st, 24th. And the South actually gets a replacement division here, unnamed, and it comes from the south edge. So let's see what the Confederates can do this turn. Okay, well, Lee has some important decisions to make here at this point in the campaign. Now, in real life, Lee was trying to kind of knock Pope out of the picture before McClellan could reinforce. And in this scenario, you should try to do that if you can. So, let's let it depend on reconnaissance. if the Confederates can get good reconnaissance on these units and expose these dummies, maybe they'll try to hit one of the Union Corps. And remember, we have a new Confederate division arriving here from the south edge of the map. I decided to place him near Port Republic here, and he will have to move by die roll. So let's do some reconnoitering of Pope's line with the Confederate cavalry divisions or brigades, and see what can be hit this turn. Okay, the two Confederate cavalry brigades began adjacent to a Union Corps, which is kind of handy for them. So we'll have the 2nd Brigade reconnoiter that square. Get a 2-for-1 sale if they expose or win the probe. Roll a die. They get a 6, which is bad luck. So that brigade's turn is entirely over. Fortunately, they have another brigade underneath, the 3rd, and he will also reconnoiter that square. And if the Confederates fail on that probe, their options will be limited. Let's roll. They get a 6 again. So luck for the first time is now on Pope's side. So without a proper reconnaissance, they're going to have a harder time isolating a Union Corps, because they don't really know if that's a real unit or a dummy. To tell you the truth, I think I forgot myself. Do we cheat in luck or what? We're trying to simulate a real game here. Let's not look and see what Jackson can do. Now Jackson could move here and strike that unit, which again could be a dummy, and that would embarrass Pope very much, because Jackson would be in his rear. And I think that's a viable option. And you know, the Confederates might even be able to reinforce it from here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think they will. Alright, let's plan a major attack then against this unit. Again, following our convention, we'll just have the leaders move last. It's a lot easier. So, 1 to unstack, 1 to enter a zone of control, to the square rather, 2, and 2 for the zone of control, so that's 4. So in other words, this whole stack can move to there. So 1, 1, 2, you know, that kind of thing. And so this whole corps redeploys there with Jackson. Now, those 2 cavalry brigades moves over because they failed their reconnaissance. But we do have 2 Confederate divisions there under Longstreet. So they will unstack the top one. You always have to move units individually, by the way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they can make it. So we're going to have a very good concentration. This guy will join too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With Jackson and Longstreet. So we've got a very good concentration against these spaces here. Now the good thing about these cavalry units are that they negate the zone of control of the Union Corps here. So these Confederate divisions, which we know are dummies, can be used to mess up the Union line, and we'll do so. Well, so we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and he'll go 1. Oops, you know what? They're out of command control. No, that guy wasn't. He began adjacent to Longstreet, so he's okay. These guys are out of command control. So I will attempt to move the top guy to there. You need to have a good roll. Got 4, which means he pays 1, 2, 3. He'll try to do the same thing. He rolls a 6. He might make it, although I doubt it. 1, 2, 3. 1 to stack 4. 5 to get in the square, and 1 to stack 6. Yes. Alright, and he will join that unit there if he gets the roll. Gets a 5, and he does. And the Confederate right flank and rear is protected by dummies, but that's going to be good enough. So we still have 2 good divisions here. One in the valley and one with Robert E. Lee. It's about time Robert E. Lee joined the fray here. I wonder if he can get in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, that's a zone of control. That unit's out of command. You know what? Let's go for broke. Let's try to have this division march to Longstreet and join. So we roll the die for that. He gets a 6. He makes it. So he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got the makings of a second Manassas battle here. A very good concentration of power. Now, Lee's with a division here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, Lee will come up here and stop there. You know, I wonder if leaders can force march. I think they can. But, I better check that. Yes, I just checked the errata sheet for the game, and leaders can force march, although they still have to roll and would suffer the disruption effects. So, yeah, okay, I'll try. Go for broke. We'll have Lee join. He must roll. He does not want to see a 1, 2, or 3. He does not. So, by fate and die rolls, we've got almost a recreation of the Second Manassas campaign. And there's enough Confederate power there that they could almost take on those 2 stacks. I just don't know whether to do so or not. No, I better not. Okay, we're going to have this entire stack attack this unit. And to tell you the truth, I don't remember if it's a dummy or not. I think it was a dummy. But let's see what it is. We flip, and it is a dummy. Okay, that means that Lee's entire stack or units, parts, up to them, can move into the square. And I think Lee will split the army a bit. He'll move some of the units in to block, and some of the units will be staying in the back. So now we've got a heavy concentration of 2 corps there in Pope's rear. And that's major. Oh, by the way, I forgot to move these units in the rear, so I'll move them now, and then we'll look at the situation. Okay, well, the cavalry brigade moved up through Strasburg there, occupying the town, and the Confederates got a bad die roll moving their replacement unit. He only moved 1 hex in. So this is the situation after the Confederate turn. Lee is in a very good position. He's outflanked Pope. Pope is really in trouble here. And I think he's just barely got a line of supply. I haven't explained the line of supply rules, but they must go to a railroad and back to Washington, Alexandria, that kind of thing, supply source. So Pope's line of communication really is down here to Warrenton and up the track. There's a zone of control there by the Confederates, so that path is blocked. So, of course, there's a path here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and up. But you can see Pope is in trouble. The Confederates are almost on his line of communications. So, it will be the Union turn under Pope there. And let's see if he can get out of this mess, or this scrape, as McClellan called it. Okay, I've replaced the dummy unit underneath the cavalry here. You're allowed to put dummies under any real unit, and that dummy is going to be performing a very good job by blocking that pass. I think, like I said, I think that is Thoroughfare Gap itself. So, and that's a critical gap because the Confederates would have to march around here. So Pope is in big trouble here, very big trouble. But fortunately, you've got 2 corps under Porter that are in command, and they can move up the tracks here and help with the line of supply. So we're it's funny, we're very close to the actual Manassas campaign, actually, because the turn record is on August 26th, so we're very close to the turn of the actual Battle of Second Manassas. So it's again, a wonderfully elegant little game. Alright, so what can we do with Pope here? Pope's got to get out of this mess. But at least, fortunately, these guys are in command control again. So we've got that real unit and that dummy again. So let's move the dummy out and try to just mess up the Confederate and make them pay movement point costs. So, 1 to unstack, 2, 1 to stack, 3. It's going to cause a lot of traffic jams, isn't it? Well, the dummy will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's 6. I can't do it. Wow. Pope is in a mess. Well, there's another way of doing it. What we'll do is move the cavalry first. Remember, cavalry units will negate zones of control, which is handy. So this cavalry will go 1, 2, 3, 4. And now you've got a golden pathway for the Union Infantry Division, which might make moving this real unit a better unit. Yeah. Then we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like my little pet bird here, PT, doesn't agree with that move, maybe. Hey, PT, you don't agree with that move? All right, well, it's a real unit, a core. So he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I think that's a good move. He's unhinged from the Confederate line there and gone through the pass. And we now know that's a dummy, so we'd even leave him there for a moment. Now we have this real core here alone, and he can go 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's good. So we've got a good concentration there in the pass. Now that is a dummy unit. Lee's not supposed to know that. The other real unit is there. So it's looking better for Pope now. He could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be a good move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Stacking with that unit. And that we know is a dummy, so you don't really care about it. So we'll just leave it there to mess up Lee and Longstreet. And maybe move this just dummy unit over here to mess up these divisions. And we'll move Pope last. We want to move him up at least up to there to put these units in command control. Now it's looking much better for Pope. He's fixed up his line of communications, and he's still messing up the Confederates here with these dummy units. Now we've got several other units to move. We still have that 8th Corps up here, retiring from Harper's Ferry, and good old Burnside just plugging along here up from Fredericksburg. So let's get Burnside moving. Let's see if he finally joins the army. We'll have him go straight up the road here to getting command control with Pope. He rolls a die, and he finally gets a good roll of 6, which becomes a 5. So he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and he joins the army. So Pope, in 2 days, has greatly enhanced his position. Now Porter's got 2 corps here in the rear. Might be good to stop the Confederates from moving around the gap here. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of course, Lee could throw his whole army against him too. 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be risky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh. Well, we'll do it this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's hidden behind the mountains here, and Lee would have to come around to hit him from there. And this corps could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or before we move Porter's Corps, let's find out where the 8th Corps ends up first. That'll help make our decision. We'll have him go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Theoretically. What does he get in real? 5. 1. Well, as they say in the movies, he ain't going any damn where. Okay, so Porter will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Porter will move up to put these guys in command control. So that's the end of 2 days, and the Union has moved. They've improved their position greatly, and embarrassingly, he can't hit that isolated corps like he wanted to. So Pope isn't doing too badly here. What can the Confederates do? So the next turn will be August the 27th. The Confederates know that in 4 more days, 2 more corps arrive from the peninsula. So if he's going to defeat Pope, he's got to do it quickly, or else move into the valley and gather some points. Let's look at the Confederate options. Okay, the Confederates have some hard decisions to make here, strategically that is. Now Lee can maybe concentrate on defeating one of these Union corps. Lee being kind of an aggressive sort of fellow, that's probably what he'd want to do, try to capture one of these Union corps, destroy it, get some points here. The other alternative would be to start moving the army into the valley and maybe crossing the Potomac early and getting these rail points I was describing. And that's certainly a viable option too. It would take a while for McClellan's forces to come up and for Pope to chase him. And I'm just wondering if that isn't the way to go. But I'm going to risk the battle by having Lee and Longstreet concentrate perhaps on one of Porter's corps here. Because one of Lee's objectives is to defeat Pope, sort of punish him, and then perhaps invade the north. So I'm going to look at a concentration, what we can do against these Union corps, or picking one of these off. So we'll begin with Confederate reconnaissance first and see what they expose. Okay, the Confederates had bad luck last time, remember, in their reconnaissance rolls, so let's see if they can do better this time. So they'll get right in there and see if they can expose some of these units. So the 2nd Brigade will just go 1, and no stacking, and attempt to probe that corps. So die, and unlucky again, they get a 5. So they do not probe that corps, and that brigade's turn is over. So the next brigade will go in and do the same thing, try to probe that corps. Another bad roll. Wow. Lee's being let down by his cavalry. Now this cavalry way back here is pretty far. I don't know if he can make it. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Holy cow, he can. Okay. That'll be the 3rd attempt by Lee's cavalry to probe that space. Let's see what he gets. They get a 5 again. Holy cow. 3 bad die rolls in a row. Even though Lee highly suspects that that is a dummy, and we know it is, there's not a thing the Confederates can do about it, because that unit acts like a real unit until it is exposed. Now, of course, in the combat phase, the Confederates could attack it and drive it out of the way, but that's not going to do Lee any good. He needs to have the freedom of movement. Right now, that dummy is causing Lee a lot of grief, because he's got to pay the exiting costs for zone of control and stuff like that. So anyway, Lee is going to attack this isolated corps up here, or that he hopes is an isolated corps. He's pretty darn sure of that, because he's seen where the Union has placed his dummies. So we'll begin with moving this division here. That's DHL's division. He'll go 1, 2, 3. Remember the mountain pass blocks is on control there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we put a division there. Now each of these divisions here under Jackson and Lee, they have to pay an unstacking cost, and then they have to pay a stacking cost. So can they do it? It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So every single Confederate division can reconcentrate there. And the last division, of course, wouldn't pay the unstacking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can Longstreet get any divisions there? Probably not, because of this darn zone of control by that dummy unit. Well, let's get Jackson in the battle and Lee. Let's move the top division of Longstreet to there. And now these guys pay 1 to unstack, 2, 3 to stack, 1 to unstack, 4, 5. You can see the traffic jam that the Union dummy unit has caused there. Longstreet will move back, concentrate there. And the cavalry unit's move is over, all 3 of them. Very bad luck there. Very bad luck. However, this unit is out of command. He will attempt to move there. Rolls a die. He gets a 3. And he just makes it, I think. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, right. And that unit will attempt to go there. Top unit. He makes it. Dummy, yes. That's a dummy too. Let's give the Union a taste of their own medicine. And that unit will move there. And they do. Meanwhile, back here, this lone Confederate division will move straight north. Rolls a die, gets a 4. She moves 4 spaces forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's pretty well it for the Confederate turn. Now Lee and Longstreet here can entertain either attacking Porter with that corps or this corps alone. Now the generals add their combat value to the stack, so there'd be little point in attacking Porter and giving the Union a free addition of 5 combat factors. So Lee and Longstreet elect to attack this corps if it is real. We flip it, and of course, indeed it is. It's the Union 5th Corps. And now we're going to engage in our first battle of the game. Let's see what the Confederate forces are like. Like I said, I'm not a real fan of this combat results table. It's kind of finicky, one might say. And let's see, I'll calculate the odds here, the attack, and see what we've got. Alright, for the first attack, we've got 4, 8, 12, 16, 21 factors attacking, and Jackson and Lee are allowed to add at least 21 factors. So the total attacking combat factor is 42 for the Confederates, and the Union has a defense of 9. I should point out that at this point you've got to be looking at supply lines, which I forgot to look at. I better make sure that the Confederates are in supply. Let me just check that. Okay, I've made a major error here, because I should have checked the supply rules first. There's not going to be a battle up here like I thought. I'm kind of used to playing the Gettysburg campaign in this game, where the supply rules are a little bit different, a little bit more liberal. But let me explain what's happened here. To be in supply, you've got to be within 6 hexes of a rail line leading back to a supply. Now, Lee can certainly trace back to a rail line, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, back to here. But this rail line ultimately doesn't lead to another supply source. Strasburg is not a supply source. Only Port Republic is, down here. And that's not on the rail line. Now, the supply sources for the Confederate are off the board here at Gordonsville. And you can see that the track runs up to Gordonsville through Brandy Station up to Manassas. You know what, in a crazy way, I wonder if he can be supplied this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you know, by accident, he is in supply, which this is a little bizarre. I mean, historically, I mean, wow, a supply line that goes up here to Manassas Junction and back. But the Union hasn't interdicted it, so because I didn't know the supply rules very well, the Union didn't know how to take advantage of them either. But I should point out that had the Union put its zone of control on this track, Lee would be out of supply. Now, if I had known that, I probably would have moved the Confederates differently. But so that attack can go through. So Lee is in supply via 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to this square and back down. Now, Pope is going to try to mess that up, of course, in his turn. But that will be neither here nor there, because Lee will already have done this attack on the 5th Corps. So we'll go ahead with that attack, and I think it worked out to a 4-1. Let's see what the odds were. It was 4, 8, 12, 16, 21, plus another 21, 42 to 9. Yeah, it's a 4-1 attack, and we'll roll the die. And I'm not sanguine about this combat results table. Let's roll the die. 4-1. A 1. That's probably the worst roll. Let's take a look at the table says here. 4-1. No, turns out that that's a good roll. That's defender loses 3 steps, and the attacker loses 1. And I'll show you what that means. Okay, that's a huge victory for the Confederates, because the way the step reduction works, D.H. Hill's division, which is formerly a 5, can take 1 step loss, making it a 4. That gives the Union only 1 point. But the 5th Corps, which was a 9, is reduced down to a 2, which gives the Confederates 7 points. So that was a very significant victory. And let's see how the retreats work. Okay, I don't see any rules for retreating after such a great victory. I guess you have to get a DR result. That is a big victory for Lee, 7 points to 1. And that ends the Confederate turn. So it's now the Union turn, and what the devil can Pope do? He's just had one of his corps dinged very badly. But now we know the supply rules properly. He can certainly mess up Lee's supply lines. So let's see what he can do. Checking our time scale again, we're on August 28th. Now I think historically the Battle of Bronner Farm was on August 28th, and the Battle of Manassas takes place here on the next turns. And next turn 2 more corps arrive, so the time is passing when Lee has got to beat up Pope and keep on moving. So time is running out for the Army of Northern Virginia here. So this turn and the next are going to be decisive. They've got to do something and get their reconnaissance in order. Let's see what they can do. Okay, I was anticipating Confederate movement there, but of course it's the Union movement turn, and Pope is still going to cause as much grief to Lee as he can. So I've had this one corps move down as far south as it can to interdict Lee's supply line, and Pope isn't quite finished with Lee yet. So we'll reflip this unit. Although it's badly damaged, Lee is now isolated, so that's going to mean he cannot attack at all, and in defense he's halved. So I'm wondering now if even Pope should do a counterattack against Lee. Halved in defense for Lee. It's almost worth it, and you know, an aggressive Union commander like Pope probably would attempt it. Let's try it. The first Union counteroffensive against Lee. So or would they try to hit one of these isolated Confederate divisions? You know, that's an option too. Well, let's let reconnaissance decide it. We'll have the Union cavalry division move in there. 1, 2, 3. And they'll do a reconnoitering against that. Now, will they have the good or bad luck that the Confederates did? They roll 3, so that's a successful reconnaissance. They flip, and they've exposed the Confederate dummy. So that comes off. Because they've exposed the dummy, they can continue reconnoitering. They roll a die, and they get a 3. And that exposes a real unit, Anderson. So, now the Union have an opportunity to strike a very deadly blow against one of Lee's isolated divisions. Now there's 3 cavalry units there and an unknown unit. And you know what? He can still keep reconnoitering because oh no, he found a real unit. Once you find a real unit, your turn is over. So Pope could take the chance of hitting Anderson here alone, or striking at these cavalry brigades, or even that unit, which he doesn't not know what it is. Although he probably suspects it's a dummy. Let me just look at the Union options for a moment. Well, it's a lot easier for the Union to get back in supply than the Confederate. So I think Pope would strike against this isolated division of Anderson's. So let's see what Pope can do here. See if we can concentrate. Okay, so we've got a real unit. That's the first corps, and that's a mighty good unit. So the corps will go 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. We've got another corps there. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Another corps there. 1, 2. That's a dummy. That's a real corps too. Well, let's move this dummy up, because he started in command control there. That's where Pope is. He'll go 1, 2, 3, and just stop there, just to prevent Lee from getting around and messing Lee up. Porter. That's a real unit too. 1, 2, 3. Porter will join that unit. We'll just leave that unit there, even though we know it's a damaged corps. Lee's going to be so isolated, I don't think Pope thinks he can attack. And we have a very good corps there. You know what? Pope's going to go all out. He's going to go 1, 2, 3 and add. That Confederate division, I think, is in big trouble. And Pope will add there. This guy's doing his job, keeping his under control there. This unit's doing his job. I think the Union have got a very good chance of a very bad blow against the Confederates here. They've also got the 8th Corps, and you know what? They'll move down to Leesburg if they can get there. 2, almost. Alright, so we have the first Union counterattack of the game, and it's going to be kind of ugly for Anderson's division. Well, it's Lee's worst nightmare and Pope's dream. Now, Pope has managed to get a 6-to-1 attack on the isolated Confederate division. So this is not going to be a very nice result for the Confederates. And let's see what they roll. Right, the Union rolls. They roll 3, which is defender loses 2 steps and the attacker loses 1. Well, that's all it needed. 2 steps destroys Anderson's division. So we'll take that off. And we'll take a step off one of these Union corps here. And we'll see how that works out. Now, the way the order of battle is constructed, casualties hurt the Union too, because the steps are not quite even. So the 3rd Corps goes from a 9 to a 6. That gives Lee 3 points, and the Union gets 4 points for destroying Anderson's division. Doesn't sound very equal, but don't forget now Anderson's division is completely destroyed, and Lee is down 1 counter, which is 1/9 of his army. So that was a severe blow to the Confederate Army. So Pope has a victory here, and he advances into the space this time. Alright, so that's the end of the Union turn. It will be the Confederate turn next, and I think we've reached a turning point in the campaign already. Lee is in big trouble. It's not the victory he anticipated. He's isolated. Doesn't look good unless he can strike some counter blow here through the pass.